everybody. I'm your host, Howie Croft, calling me Grateful Howie, and I'm here with, he looks different this week,
That's
Dr.
right.
G. Dornick,
I'm naked. I'm coming naked.
a.k.a. the Dragon.
I'm stripping all the bullshit away. The glasses are off. I've got eyes. I've got no more mustache. I'm just coming clean. So if you don't like the hat, hey, I can't do everything at once.
What happened with the mustache?
And this is my message to everybody. This means my patience is wearing thin.
I like that. You know what happens when the battery gets like that? People go into a complete freak out panic mode and they recharge. We could have a whole conversation on cell phones because they're a lot like life. When people get depleted, they don't always run to recharge or exercise or do anything. They just let it run down and empty. But take me through it. What was the decision to shave? What was it?
I mean, you know, when we do a show like this, we have a tendency to try to like embellish stories, but I'm just going to tell you the truth. It was a goof, you know, like I was, and I think there's a lesson in it. When I was in the shower that day and I was listening to Queen and I said, hey, I kind of feel like a little Freddie Mercury-ish. And I was kind of envisioning me on stage at Wembley Stadium and I felt like excited about it. So I came out joking with Chicken and I you know, just in my birthday suit walking around our home with a little bit of a mustache, and she started laughing. And I said, hey, you know what? I like to get uncomfortable and I like to experience growth. So I'm going to grow a fucking mustache. So I started growing the mustache and it started, like I said, wow, I can grow a mustache. But then I started to wake up in the morning and, you know, it's sometimes you go forward with things and hey, Tanya.
Hey, Shelly.
I sometimes you move forward with things and you realize that you kind of know. Sometimes it happens in relationships where you kind of know it's not right. So I knew that I was not a mustache man. I did learn something though about the mustache is that you can get people, if you're consistent with something and people interpret that you're not turning around, you're committed to something, what you'll notice is that people will start to fall in line and start to say, hey, you know what? It's growing on me. So that was fun. But then I said to Chicken every day, are you sure you like this? She goes, yeah, I like it. But I didn't get the vibe she did. So when I shaved it, we bought some clippers and I shaved it because you can't just shave it with a razor, right? I thought I would cut myself. She looked at me and she goes, thank you.
You know, it's funny because I think it was yesterday or the day before, we were on an early morning Zoom and I didn't say anything. And then later in the day, I saw you again and I'm like, yeah, I took that off yesterday. So it's funny sometimes how you do something and people don't recognize it, or they'll look at you and they'll say, JC, what's different about you? Yeah. And, you know, did you lose weight? Did you do something? Hey, Jamie, how are you, buddy? Jamie was calling you Raleigh Fingers. He was a great reliever with the Oakland A's, and he had the actual, what do you call that when you do the bicycle mustache? What do they call that when it comes up and they put the wax in it?
He says Rolly Fingers mustache, but that was like didn't Goose Gossage have one of those too?
Goose had a crazy one, I think, too.
Yeah.
Speaking of sports, talk about the bright side. Tom Brady. The man is 43 years old. He's won 6 Super Bowls. He stayed with New England for 20 years. He came to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They haven't seen the playoffs since the last time you grew a mustache. And lo and behold, what do? They go all the way. They're in the Super Bowl. And here's the interesting thing. In the history of the Super Bowl, which is 50 plus years, there's never been a game where the home team hosted the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is in Tampa Bay. Think about this. What are the initials for Tampa Bay? TB. Tom Brady, TB. The whole thing. And it's just, and he went up against 2 of the greatest quarterbacks to get there. He beat Drew Brees and Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers. So it's like, it's amazing what he does. And he's just an incredible, I like to call him the GOAT, greatest of all time.
Well, I can see that. First of all, I'm very impressed with all of your knowledge of this stuff, and just hearing you tell that story. I love to hear stories about that. I love stories that just redefine what I think is possible. But however, I'll tell you something funny. You told me about this the other day. You said, "Hey, what do you think about Tom Brady?" And I was like, "What?" And I realized in that moment, and sometimes when you have this moment, you're a little afraid of admitting it. But I realized in that moment, I didn't even know that the football season started. I mean, you got to understand that when coronavirus came, Chicken and I completely turned off the news. Like, we were unaware of Trump and all of the chaos and stuff. We removed it from our lives, which made a lot of people angry at us because we didn't. People started to say, "You should know." But I promise you, when you told me about this, forget about the fact that I didn't know that the football season was going. I didn't even know there was the Super Bowl coming up. So I was happy to hear that story, but at the same time, it made me realize, wow, I really have been hiding under a rock.
Well, you put your time and effort and energy into the things that are important to you. And I know when you say, because I've had people say, "How could you and him never put on the news?" When something major happens, you.
You don't have to put the news on for the things that are really important.
Right, because it comes on your phone somehow.
Or the things, like when the thing with the storm in the Capitol.
Yep.
I didn't watch that. I didn't make a decision to upload that negative energy all day. Even if I was pro it, I just understand that I don't want to program my brain with that stuff. But I heard about it all day. So, news travels,
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, here we are. We're finishing January. This will be our last broadcast in January. And it's just so hard to believe that there's a month. And you're talking to a lot of people, and typical New Year's resolutions have already fallen by the wayside. No surprise. And how's your January? I'm just before we get to our subject, we'll just start here. And how's your January? And if anybody wants to comment on how their January is, happy to hear from you.
I remember we were talking about this at the end of 2020. When I look at years and months and days, I never make a judgment if they were good or bad, because I've just, through all of my lessons in life, I've really made a distinction that good and bad are always omnipresent. There's always a duality of both. So I can't say that I had a good January and I can't say I had a bad January. I can tell you that I had just as much potential and opportunity for greatness in January as I did any other month. What I can tell you is that I'm at a place in my life where I'm very, very much aware of how my choices impact, my life. And that's one of the reasons why I turned the TV off. So I will say that I've evolved into this person that recognizes and appreciates the potential and opportunity that I have every day in this January. But, I stopped looking at months and seasons and stuff like that, whether it's snowing out or hot out or wet out or dry out. I just think every day is just a blessing. And we don't know how long we're going to live. I always ask God, I call him. He never answers, but I think he's listening. So I ask him, I say, "Hey, how long do I got?" And he says, "I'm not telling." That's the message that I receive. So I just take every day as a blessing. And that's why that's the whole concept of the bright side, is to just say, hey, what happened today didn't happen to me. It happened for me. And I'm just grateful for it.
Yeah, I was on a conversation today with somebody, and we had that conversation that every day that you wallow or worry or don't live it, you just wasted a day, and you don't know how many more of those you're going to have.
That's right.
And speaking of a day, there's a lot going on. And on the positive side, I watch a little bit of the news. It seems like we're going to war against this COVID. We're going to do a better job at vaccinations, and it feels brighter. And there are some states opening up a little bit, but a lot of people are waking up with an enormous amount of stress, anxiety, and it's running rampant. It's almost like when I do put on the TV, every other commercial is for the meditation app Calm. They're really trying to.
I know. No, people should just stop listening to Calm. It's a waste of time. The girl's voice is just garbage.
Oh, we have something better.
You want to get on the podcast called Karma Minds, and you will hear a voice that will soothe and harmonically involve and put in sync your brain and your heart, and you will just find everything that you're looking for. Karma Minds.
KarmaMinds. And maybe we can get the founder of Karma Minds on here sometime. Maybe.
I'll do my best. She's in high demand right now.
So, people automatically step out of bed and they're not in a good place, right? They're ready to make a bad day out of it. They wake up as soon as they step on the ground, all of that. So you and I were talking and we came up with this expression, why not be a day maker? And what does that mean? That means put yourself aside a minute and think about somebody, lots of people, that you could help make their day. And by doing that to others, in service of others, you're almost guaranteed to start to feel better about yourself, your situation, and the universe has a way of watching that. So become a day maker. What do you think?
Yeah, I think everybody right now, it would be a great start to just recognize and identify if anybody was your day maker today. If anything, like a lot of times right now, you talked about the way people are waking up. And by the way, I wake up like that still sometimes. I wake up, I still experience tickles of anxiety and sadness and confusion and concern. Those are just natural things that have been programmed into us since we were born. I just have a system of etch-a-sketching that and correcting it. But I always like to start off my days with gratitude. And one of the things that I like to do is I like to highlight who was a day maker. So I'll tell people very often, you were my day maker. Like if we hear, one of our clients or coaches get a big win and overcome adversity and tell me an inspirational story and I become inspired, right? I say, hey, you're my day maker. And it's interesting when you say that to somebody and they realize that they've made somebody's day, they feel fantastic about it. So that's where it comes, and you mentioned something about there's a lot going on. I just want to focus people on something that they might have forgotten. Right now, you could easily say there's a lot going on. I mean, especially if you watch TV. Because remember, I'm not even watching TV and I know there's a lot going on. But if you go back in any time of history, there's always been a lot going on.
Always.
And next week,
this one's just different than the last one, and the next one will be different than this one.
And here's the key, because I always talk about this, and this is the highlight of my book, is this idea of really building yourself into a person that responds to adversity better, right? A better response system. So when you look at all that's going on, it's your perception of how it's impacting you. We talk about this all the time. Is all this stuff going on happening to you? Are you a victim of it? Or is it just another lesson? Do you have the ability right now to look at everything that's going on and say, hey, I can't do anything about that? So the vision that I have right now that leads me into this place of the day maker, because we know that you feel good when you help other people, is I was telling Chicken about this, and I was just saying, right now, and you can feel it, when there's a lot of tension going on, you can feel it. And one of the things that I feel, because I interact with people all day, even though I don't watch TV, I talk to people and they're out there and they're absorbing it. And it's almost like people have just jumped off a sinking ship like the Titanic, and they're all treading water. They're all in survival mode. And what's interesting, if you're the kind of person that likes to help people and you go out there and try to save them, they're so freaked out right now that they'll actually try to pull you down. So recognize that people that are struggling, one of the natural things that people that are struggling do is try to put other people down. That's just I did that for years. When I was at my worst in life, I used to try to drag people down with me with the assumption that it would lift me up. So that's one thing I recognize. So I have a tendency of staying away. As soon as I identify someone that's below the line and they're a victim and they've got that, they're a little hot-headed, I just kind of stay away from that, right? Say, I don't know if I can help that person right now. I might come back to it. But the idea of the Daymaker comes from this concept of like asking yourself, what is it that really, really brings humans joy? I can tell you it's not money. I'd much rather have money than not, but I got a lot of money right now and it's never enough. So money's not solving anything. The thing that really, really brings me joy is when I feel useful and that I matter, but more importantly, that I feel useful in helping somebody else rise up. It's the most pleasure that I ever get. So the idea of being someone's Daymaker, you could be in the worst mood in your life. You could have the worst day of your life. And if you choose to redirect that, if you catch yourself drifting into that bad area and you want to redirect it and shift and come back above the line, the easiest way to do it is to put yourself in service of others. It is like a drug. As soon as you help somebody and you become their Daymaker, it's just like a reset. It's a reset. So that's why, Howie, we talked about this in another episode. That's why I always start my day, start off with gratitude, right? So one idea is to identify who you're grateful for. And you might want to think about that right now, everybody. But then the first words out of my mouth are, how can I help? So I realized when we started talking about this topic of the Daymaker is that when I say, how can I help? I'm putting myself in a posture and a position to be somebody's helper or Daymaker. And that's why I'm always seeing the bright side. It really helps.
Yeah, there's so many ways that you can be a Daymaker.
Yeah.
And it's giving somebody the time of day to talk to them. It's running an errand, cooking a meal, taking somebody for a walk or a drive. It's all easy stuff to do that makes such a difference.
Yeah.
And, we always say don't leave anybody alone. And a lot of people, as a result of quarantine, health issues or whatever, have been isolated. And just a visit, a meal, a drive, simple stuff can really make somebody's day, and it could make all the difference. And, simple act of a phone call, just reaching out to somebody. We talk about this all the time, etc. Email, texting, telephone call. And it just, sometimes after I speak to some people that I haven't spoke to in a while, I feel good, but I only can imagine how good they feel because you're checking in, you care, you're showing you care, and they know that people care, and it's always a great practice. So it's not like you just said, it has nothing to do with money. It has everything to do with giving from here. And sure, could you send money and make people feel better? Yeah, but we're talking about a different type of helping people to make their day. And you know what? Buy somebody groceries. Take somebody for a meal. Socially distanced, mask, the whole bit. But, you can do things like that too.
Yeah, and that's why it's important to put yourself in the position of the how can I help, right? So that's why I always say those words, because what's interesting is if you do want to look to make somebody's day, something very interesting about the law of give and receive, right? If I asked people, and when I used to do the humanitarian work, I used to do a talk called Give and Receive. And I used to ask the audience, I'd say, what's more important? What's more valuable, right? People can try to chime in on the chat here. What's more important, to give or to receive? And how would you answer that question, Howie?
Absolutely to give.
Okay, so you just fell right into my trap.
I did that for you.
So the reason why everybody says to give is just a logical approach to, giver's gain and all that stuff. But here's the thing about giving, because if I go out and I want to make somebody's day, what if I can't find somebody to receive it? So it's interesting because sometimes when you're looking to give and be somebody's daymaker, sometimes you have to allow somebody else to be to do it in reverse. Like if I'm looking to help you and gain from that because it feels good to help people, maybe the way I'm going to help you is by allowing you to feel good by helping me. So it's interesting that you have to be as excited and see the reward equally on the giving and the receiving end, because a giver has nothing if there's no receiver. So that's the one thing. And then here's another interesting thing. So Tanya fell prey to it as well. She said, "Give."
Well, I'll say that, with children, right? When it came around holidays, we give an abundance and they get more than they need, and start teaching at a young age the importance of taking some of the excess and giving it. And they didn't need it all. Let's just use Legos, right? When they were little. How many Legos do you need? Do you need 2,000? Probably get away with 500.
My kids need about 40,000.
Whatever it was, but take some of the excess and teach them at a young age that give it to those that don't have it. And that's been a valuable lesson that we've used with our children since they're young. And it's funny because I'm in the process of decluttering, minimalizing, and going through a storage unit. And we got rid of so much, and yet it's still
storage units are the funniest thing in the world. It's like, hey, I got all this shit that I'm never going to use again, but I'm not sure yet, so I'm going to pay $300 a month and store it, and then eventually you just give it all away, or you get rid of it, or you go in there and it's like a time capsule and you have like a couple moments. But Chicken and I recognize that everything that we had in our storage unit, we went and picked it up. We bought a truck and got everything, and on our way home with it, we were going to move it to another storage unit. And on our way home, we both looked at each other and we said, we don't need any of this shit. And it was like all this kind of stuff. So we didn't even think about what was in the boxes. We drove to the dump and we took it all out of the truck. And what we realized is that there was a lot of good stuff in there. So all the guys at the dump started going through our box and finding these mirrors and keepsakes and all that stuff. And we were so tempted to grab it and say, no, that's ours. But we just looked at each other and we said, let's give it away. And we felt a little weird, like I wonder what they're going to find. But interesting.
I know. I mean, I have these boxes that haven't been opened in 6 years, and I'm going through them. And today I shared George Carlin's video. It's called Stuff.
So funny.
And if we were able to pull it up, I don't know how to do the technology. It would be fun to watch it because it's all about, you have a house, you have stuff, you get a bigger house so you can put more stuff. Then you get rid of the house and you take the stuff and you put it in a storage unit. And it's just stuff. And he goes on and on. And boy, was he a brilliant comedian. He was incredible.
Genius.
And that led me to watch a couple of other routines of his. And just what a talent. What a genius.
I see Tanya says, she brings up a good point that the idea of being somebody's daymaker, it doesn't have to be materialistic. It could just be to give someone time and an ear. There's a sticky situation involved with that too, because all these people that are treading water right now, very often what we do is we engage in being sympathetic for them. And we kind of we come in and we feel their pain with them and we think that we're helping them. But very often that's not making their day. It might feel good that you're feeling the pain with them, but what they're doing is pulling you into the water with them. And that's what we refer to as enabling. So the idea is to flip a switch and really be more empathetic. You can express compassion, and compassion just means listening, like Tanya says, giving them an ear and understanding, but you don't have to join them. That's a mistake everybody makes. But then there's another side of it. Very interesting, and this is going to be hard for people to embrace, but I have this policy with my friends that if my friends are filing complaints about how rough their life is, I very often say, not with me. No complaints filed with me. I want a solution-focused approach and all that stuff. So sometimes tough love ends up in the beginning when people say, Jesus, JC, I just need somebody to listen to and all that stuff. And I go, and they're pissed off at me first. But later on, or the next day, they go, hey, thanks for that. I needed that. So there's another way. Sometimes I call, you know what we call that? Hashtag delayed daymaker. Sometimes it comes back, because I look back at some of the roughest times I've ever had with mentors and friends where I wanted a hug and a kiss and a binky, right? And they just said, I'm not putting up with any of that crap. You go get it done, and you rise up, you be a man and all that. And I said, oh, I felt even worse when they said that. But then I always came back and I said, you changed my life.
Yeah, tough love is a game that unfortunately we play, and it's hard, and especially when it's with somebody who's really close to you.
Yeah.
And it takes time to allow the work that you're doing when you do tough love. Been in that position. It's hard. It's hard for the giver and the receiver, and you can get through it though. As long as you're committed and willing to work to a solution. Because if all you want to talk about are the dark clouds and not the bright side, you're not going to get out of the dark clouds. And you're given only so much time. So every day, move a little forward in a positive direction. A little and a little starts to add up to a lot.
You know what's interesting, Howie? Off screen, I always come here with some thoughts, right? I wrote this, like, you know, a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about here. I don't read it, but I just write it. Helps me remember. But that as we're talking, this is what my notes look like. You know, I always write these notes down. You know, one of the things, and this is a really interesting, this is a power move that helps you and other people. Because remember, if somebody is, this is another way of being somebody's day maker. And also, sometimes you got to be your own day maker, right? So sometimes when I notice people are kind of like, you know, Debbie Downer from, and they're not seeing the bright side. There's two things at play. I don't want to absorb that, but I also want to help guide them to see the bright side. So, you know, one thing that I never do is I never say, hey, Howie, how you doing? Now, I know we always joke about how we doing it, but I never ask people, how are you, or how are you doing? Because you just open the door for a complaint. So a great thing to do, if you can remember, is whenever you speak to somebody, especially the person that likes to file complaints, I always say, what's new and exciting? So
Noodleberg, you know what he says?
What?
Tell me something good.
Yeah, well, that's right. We've been on his show, Tim.
Right. So he always, when I get on the phone with him, I'll go, tell me something good. And it catches you off guard a minute, because I got to think he doesn't want to hear about, you know, the flood in the kitchen or the rain out. Tell me something good. And I believe in every day there's goodness. In every day that you get up and you put your feet on the ground, absolute grateful goodness, and then, you know, build from there.
I have seen, and my dad's a great example. My dad has the ability to find a pony in a room full of shit, right? And one of the things my dad has had terrible cancer battles. He's got a scoliosis, and his legs are in tons of pain, and he's got Parkinson's, right? And if you speak to him, he's just always in a good mood. He always sees the bright side. Very important.
I want to just throw something in on my dad. That my dad, at 50, he got diabetes, but he got it really bad. It's called brittle diabetes, where it just boomerangs. Sure. And as he got older, he blacked out, and he had open heart surgery, and it affected his eyesight. He went to the gym 6 days a week. He never, ever gave up. And you want to talk about him making sun in a room that was storming. He was always in a good mood. Yeah. And he would light up a room. So he ended up playing in extra innings. And I see my sister jumped on there, and she said, after you spoke about your dad, she was going to mention ours.
You just got confirmation and validity from your sister that what you're saying is true.
Yeah. He was a fighter, but he ended up playing extra innings till 83 and lived a full life. Never enough, but you know, he lived on the bright side. and just enjoyed and loved.
Hey, listen, just quickly. First of all, great topic today. Love this. I know a lot of people out there are hearing about this new social media platform, Clubhouse.
Yes.
So I just want to let people know, first of all, I've been playing in it and I think it's really, really cool. We're going to create a bright side for Clubhouse and we'll have that by next week. I've got a Clubhouse account and I've got a really, really cool conversation going on tomorrow. So if you're not on Clubhouse, you would download the app. You can find me at the @ symbol is Make Sense, or you could look up Dragon or JC Dornick. But tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern, if you're watching this as a recording, you don't know that. But Thursday, what's the date tomorrow? The 28th. Thursday the 28th at 1 p.m. Eastern, I've got a new show that I'm going to do just on Clubhouse where you can actually interact. And I've got an amazing guest, this guy, Jameel Frazier, who's got.
I listened to him the other night. The guy is amazing.
But
just so you know,
come there and you can actually talk to us. Go ahead.
Clubhouse is by invitation only. I have 3 invitations that if you contact me, I'm happy to share them with you. So if you're not already on Clubhouse, I have 3 invites. It'd be my pleasure to share it with you. Just reach out to me. You could reach me through any of my social media platforms, Facebook Messenger, or howie@howiedoingit.com. Be my pleasure. I want to be somebody's day maker by turning them on to Clubhouse.
I love the way you say that A at the end of day maker.
Well, you know, my kids used to joke, poker, P-O-K-E-R. They said, you say it P-O-K-A. Want to play some poker? So,
a lot of fun stuff coming up.
What?
I said a lot of fun stuff coming up. We're really, just for anybody that's listening to this, the bright side is going to get brighter. Howie and I are always having jam sessions like this. So once a week, we're going to do it live here. So spread the news, share this. If you're watching this on a social media platform or YouTube, share it with somebody else. We're gonna really take this to a new place and maybe start having some guests as well.
Awesome. Maybe you could get that Karma lady.
She'll put us to, we'll fall asleep. We'll start floating. We'll fall asleep.
That'd be great.
Love you, man.
Love you. Take care.